Man, I appreciate you coming on. So any questions that you want to ask me? We're still recording, and some good stuff come out of this after.
What I'll ask you this, because I've definitely been following just this process. What led you to this?
And that's the question I'm always asked. And to be honest with you, I was interviewed on a program called Leafless but Not Lifeless. And what that program is about is they're about people who somewhere in your life, somebody or system just totally say you're no good, total write-off. And but however, you come bouncing back and started to doing some things, some stuff, because I started to I was thinking about that, and it occurred to me that maybe why enough of us are not doing stuff is because we're not intentional about our purpose.
Yes.
Intellectually and from an academic standpoint, we understand the notion purpose, but we're not intentionally doing it. You even alluded to that when you say that, we talk about what we talk about. It's not as intentional as it ought to be. So, I went to sleep that night, went to bed, and I woke up with this thing in my head the next morning. So I approached Kiana and I said, we're going to do something about purpose. And wasn't sure of the name, but we know it had to do something with collision. So we tossed around the idea of collide with, and we said collision. And instantly, the thing was up and running that same day.
Wow.
So it happened. And I'm not taking credit. I cannot, to be honest with you. It happened. It just happened just like that. Woke up, and then it started to morph into other things. So, we couldn't just keep it there, right? So I started my walk in the park, which served two purposes. I was able to get some exercise, and I would just start talking, right? Recording myself talking about this thing, this purpose, and nothing rehearsed, just what I think, what I envision, what I see, and what it should be. So I did that, and then asked people to send their 1 minute video saying what they believe purpose is, right?
Yes.
How much can you say in 1 minute, 1 minute and a half? And then we went to the interviews. I've done quite a few of them, to the point now where it's no longer just here, Jamaica, it's coming from everywhere, and people are reaching out to me, for interviews, to do interviews. But I also knew that needed to be more. So a friend of mine, Donna Thompson, say, you need to write about this, books, So we're doing that now.
Wow.
And it's the books are pretty much based on the lived experiences of participants, interviewers.
Yes.
Interviewing. And the themes that's emerging from the interviews is what we're going to write about.
That's good.
And then there's a documentary in the making. But the big piece as well is to create a learning institution.
Wow.
That's where we are. We're in the process of writing the books. We're doing that. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, and there'll be a workbook with each version. Okay. And what we're seeing right now, we're seeing people pursuing having their collision with purpose through pain.
Yes.
Some event that happened that was so painful. We're seeing their collision with purpose coming through seen as destiny.
Yes.
Yeah, some people believe that's it. And we're seeing a big resistance to purpose. Yeah, I know it's there. I know my purpose, but I'm fighting it, man.
Right.
I don't want to get involved.
That, I didn't even consider that even through this conversation, that there are times when we are aware of our purpose,
Mhm.
but we fight it.
Yeah. There's that tug of war going on.
Yes.
And why are we fighting it? It's a commitment. Once you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
you probably will have to act on it.
Yes.
And that can be work too, But this purposeful walk is not always an easy walk. It's
No,
not a
it's
walk
not.
in the park sometimes.
I use this story real quick. I use this story with a lot of my mentees, and of course I grew up Marvel, DC Comics. I love it all, And so I remember when Superman 2 came out, in the 90s, late 80s, somewhere in the early 90s. And long short of it, this one was focused on his struggle with his purpose. Now, mind you, and the story, he is different from everybody else, but because of his purpose, because of what he was called to earth to do, he wasn't allowed to live his life like everybody else.
Right.
And the person he fell in love with, he realized that it could cost him her life if he stayed with her. So he got frustrated because he wasn't able to live like everybody else was able to live. So he decided, Superman 2, I'm not going to be Superman. I'm Clark.
Exactly.
So he gave it up.
Mhm.
And you see him throughout the whole movie wrestling. He's seeing people get killed and robbed, and just the crime is just growing, just all of this stuff. And he's like, I was called to do something about this, but I don't want to do it because I want to live my life. I want to be like everybody else. I want to love who I want to love. And he realized at the end, like, that's not what I was here to sent to do. And purpose sometimes comes with sacrifice. And he accepted it, put the cape back on, and he went back to. So I always think about that, like how we can have the moments like, I don't want to do this. I want to be like everybody else, and you're not called.
And that's
You're
why
not here to be like everybody else.
that's why some people run away from it.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's a commitment. It's definitely a commitment.
And I was having a conversation yesterday, and we talk about, the 3 words, right? Am I willing? And the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Am I able? The answer can be yes, but the big one is, am I ready? And that's where that commitment, and that's where people start to shy away. So the decision was made then to put that thing back on and say, I'm going to do the work.
Right. I'm going to do the work.
I'm ready.
I'm ready, and I can't keep running. I'm ready. Yeah.
So that's and that's so those three things, those 3 questions, you have to always ask yourself. The first 2, if you pass those, then you still got to get to, am I ready?
Am I ready? I'm willing. I am able, but am I ready? That's
ready. But the first 2 are words. The first 2 are words. The next one is action.
Yes.
I'm ready. It's all about action. It's that's where the rubber is going to meet the road, right?
Yes.
Where you're going to have to step in and do the work that you're called to do. So that's what a collision with purpose is about. It's about turning words into actions, into results.
That's awesome.
That's what this thing is about. And I'll tell you this much: you see a place in here in this learning institution for you, in this organization. You're more than welcome. You talk about me playing a small part in your situation. I've always admired you.
I appreciate it, Dr. Stephenson. You don't know this, and I wouldn't say that your role has been small. I talk about you often. I'll put it like this. I remember going through college and going into my master's, and of course at the time Robert Kiyosaki was out with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was his book, and it was blowing up. And so we started reading it at my church. So I read it, and I'm like, oh, this is just, he talks about how, it's not necessarily, it wasn't a diss to his biological father, but the principles that his biological father taught him didn't help him strive or just accomplish much in life, but he had a mentor come along that brought him in and taught him different things about finances and stuff like that, So that's why it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when I read that book, I never told you this, but that was you and my biological father, right? That there were lessons that I had to discover from my connection with my actual father. But my rich dad at that time was you, when you were teaching and talking to me about real estate, the market, bettering myself, regardless of where I've come from, bettering myself so I can make an impact in community, but also my family. And not only you talked to me about that, but I saw you doing it with Tremaine, with Kiana, and even with their friends, with your nieces, your nephews, your siblings. I saw that you live in that example, and so for a long time, you were my rich dad. I was able to apply some things. And so I tell this story all the time. So I'm a product of it. And it started, I'll be honest with you, it started with you, Dr. Stephenson. I met Kiana when we were 15, 16. And I started coming over, just sitting under you, coming to the house party, just sitting around you and just learning. I'm like, wow, how does he know so much? And he just driven. You would always take the time to just throw little nuggets out there, a challenge stuff. And I think that's where it started with the mentorship, not realizing it was mentorship, of course, at that time, but I realized that the words that you were leaving with me, were impactful. So it was more, it's bigger than a small role, but I've never had the opportunity or taken the opportunity to tell you that.
I know you're doing it on camera. but I'm very proud of you though, because you're doing what I did. You're repeating it.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Yes.
You're really making it happen. So that's good stuff, man. But just know that anywhere, if you see a place in what we're doing,
okay,
perfect fit.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited about it, and I'm gonna reach out so we can make the connection. Because right when you said institute, I was like, yes.
Yeah. Learn,
yes.
And not a teaching, but a learning one.
Yes, absolutely.
It's all about, we're all learners, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're all learning. They say when one teach, who learn. So
yes,
I'll stay with that. So it's all about, and we all can stand to be a bit better than we are now.
Absolutely.
We need to be a little bit better,
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you coming on, my man.
No, Dr. Stephenson, thank you so much for having me.
It's been a minute.
Yes. Long overdue, but we're right on time. We're right on time. So.
All right. So I appreciate it, bro. And we'll
have
talk.
A good one.
Stay in touch, man, because definitely would like to be a part of this thing.
Absolutely. I sure will. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
All right, cool.
Bye.